I'd like to bring this meeting to order. The Village of Villa Park Board of Trustees Committee of the Whole meeting, January 27th, 2025. Clerk Konecki, please call the roll.
Trustee Alfano.
Here.
Trustee Cordova.
Here.
Trustee Corkery.
Here.
Trustee Kozar.
Here.
Trustee Kumar.
Here.
Trustee Patrick.
Here.
President Kazone.
Here. And please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, our agenda tonight is a strategic plan update, and I will turn it over to Manager Harline.
Great. So the goal is to recap what we've done, what we have to do, and what will make the plan reality rather than just a plan, and kind of to both update the board, the public, and then also help focus staff on the future initiatives. We've had kind of a lull after we've worked on initiatives, but not much that is visible since this summer when we adopted the plan. So the vision and the mission, of course, we remember. At this point, we need to begin to incorporate vision, mission, and values into much of what we do, including the hiring and promotion process. And we've begun to do this in a variety of different ways. Boy, that's just not being friendly. So one of the things that we're doing is making sure that the values are incorporated into job descriptions, interview process, and developing messages around these values. As you recall, that we went through these and made sure that they were both consistent with what the discussion that we had on the original date in February, the discussion with the staff, and finally the decision of the board to move forward with service, integrity, stewardship, and adaptability, but making sure that all is done with a spirit of welcoming and that everybody is, accepted, as it says, as they come to the village. Project timeline, just to remember, the kickoff was in January of 2024. There were surveys and focus groups. We did an environmental scan where all the departments went through the work that they were doing and challenges that they faced. We put this together into a document. We reviewed the survey data, and then we proceeded with a day-long workshop on February 24th of 24 at the Iowa Center. Most of the board was there, many of the department heads, and some of the public attended, and it was, I think we made a lot of progress that day. We further did some development of the value statements, strategic goals, performance measures, and initiatives were done by staff. We brought it to the board and public at first draft in April of 2024, did further development and adopted it in July of 2024. The development of the initiatives is now what is ongoing. So this is directly taken from the document, the strategic plans update. Completed items are crossed off. We've done the scan the environment, we've done the SWOT analysis, strategic profile, et cetera. We're in the process of those things that are highlighted in yellow. We're actively developing the initiatives, spreading the ideas throughout the organization, creating the detailed action plans, and establishing accountability, the who, what, and when. Those other items, defining performance, measure, set targets and thresholds, identify success and indicator. We've done that, and but there's a chance that we will want to revisit and adjust those as we get through doing the initiatives to make sure that the performance measures are obtainable still, that what we're working on and what we're trying to do is something that are going to meet the indicators and still get us to the key, which are the strategic goals. So we're into the plan implementation stage. All right. So if you remember, we developed 4 strategic goals: financial resilience, sustainable infrastructure, community engagement, workforce development. In each, there were key outcomes For instance, in financial resilience, we had increased residential development, increased commercial development, increased operational efficiency. In community engagement, community bridges built, a well-informed community, and transparent government. The other two, sustainable infrastructure and workforce development, these are the strategic outcomes, except for the workforce development. That one did not save properly. Workforce development is staff capacity to meet service demands, satisfied and engaged workforce, and future staffing needs managed. Strategic plan initiatives. So from these strategic goals and outcomes, we developed key outcome indicator. So for instance, in increased residential development, we look for the number of residential permits that expand square footage on the lot, new building residential EAV. Those are some indicators that we can actually track, and actually the data is available. So our target was was a number of residential building permits that expands. So for instance, we had an increase in 10% in new build residential EAV by December of '27. So those are measurable targets. To get to those, how do we do those? We have to develop plan initiatives. So the plan initiatives include develop a streamlined permit application review process, which has actually largely is on its way to being done as we implement the BS&A system. So some of these things will, as we get the initiatives posted, some of them will be close to done in the first couple of years. Others will take the full 4 years. And so under sustainable infrastructure, create a develop a 2014 referendum project plan. We are well into looking at those things that are left and how much money will be needed to cover the additional that the 2014 referendum originally was slated to cover, but because of increase in costs, the delay on certain projects that were large projects to the end of the cycle, so there some of the largest projects were left towards the end. So you're going to see the most impact of increased prices. And then we had to go back at one point because a lot of the projects neglected, or we had only put them down as a road project, but it turns out that there was sewer and water upgrades that needed to be done, and there's no point in doing a street if you've got sewer and water upgrades that need to be done. We'll have to come back and tear up the relatively new street in a few years. So we're in the process of developing that already as we've developed our capital improvement program for this year. Strategic plan initiatives for community engagement, workforce development, and some of these will require cooperation and cooperation and work with the board and coordination with the board on some of these. For instance, create community leader engagement plan. So some of these things we'll come back and ask some questions to make sure that we're heading in the right direction. We're already engaged in working on the next employee survey, and the idea is to have focus groups to help with the long-term strategy. I'm going a lot faster than I meant to because I'm going to get done in 10 minutes. And we have been doing this will be our third annual employee engagement survey. So one of the initiatives is to develop an annual workplace survey, and that is to serve the target of increase in employee satisfaction and reduce our turnover rates. That goes back all the way to the outcome of satisfied and engaged workforce. So working back from the goal of satisfied and engaged workplace, one of the things we're going to do is to develop an annual workplace survey strategy. So they've seen all the employees have seen the surveys we've done. what can we do to make it, to get better data? That's one of the things we'll ask, both in the survey, but mostly also in follow-up. Focus groups, we already talked to Corey Plash, and she's willing to come back at a very reasonable price to help us do that and develop a good input towards that. Also, one of the things that we've been asked to do for workforce development is to develop one of the targets was increase in number of employee referrals for open positions. So that's one of the things that we can talk to that is easier to flesh out in a focus group type setting, is how to develop a referral program through the village employees. So these are some of the initiatives that we've already started on. To give you an idea of how we're going through that, here are 23 initiatives, and as I was looking through, there's probably a couple of targets that we will need to develop additional initiatives for. So if we are looking at 25 initiatives, this is more community engagement that we want to work on. We have a Gantt chart, and in the Gantt chart, there's these initiative by initiative worksheets. So this is one that's been developed pretty well. So picking on the financial resilience, where the directors McLaughlin and Howard have done some work. So, sorry. So we have first one was we've adopted. We're already purchased and installing the BSNA software. Actually, today was go live for some of the software. Measure completion adoption target date this week, basically, or next week, and then it's the captain or the department head's usually the person accountable. Responsible is the person who's going to get a lot of the actual work done. Consulted is somebody who's going to provide assistance on the project and expertise and support. And then informed is usually a department that's related to this, or it can be the board if it's something, for instance, like the if we're talking about the leadership, what was the one that was talking about? The community leader engagement strategy. That would be one of the people we'd be keeping informed was the board, because it's going to affect the board more closely. So then evaluate permit and review, permit review and issue durations. How long is it taking? Take 6 months of collected data. That gives you to August 3rd. And then identify possible inefficiency, completion of list, identify new permit review, completion of procedures. And then from there, we'll come up with the rest of the steps until we have the full strategic plan initiative written out. We're working on, these are being filled out as these weeks, the next few weeks, by department heads and their staff to get the initiatives to have actual tasks and measurements and accountable, responsible, and consulted people on each one of these initiatives. So complete the Gantt chart of all the initiatives. The goal is to have it done by the end of this month. So we also have to develop a website presence, and we've talked about that for public tracking of the initiatives. Right now, the idea is most of the goals that we came up with, there are very few that are actually a measure of where it's where you're getting closer and closer to a like if you're raising money for a charity, you'll have a thermometer and measuring how much closer and closer you are to getting to your financial goal. We don't have a lot of initiatives like that. So I think a lot of these ones we're going to have tracking in terms of, basically how far down are we on the number of initiatives until we have completed, or how far are we on all the tasks until completed the initiatives, and then also which will refer back to our our original outcomes. We're still working through that. And then we'll make quarterly updates and annual reports. Use the data at 6 months in August to inform the FY 2026 budget process. So once again, this data from the strategic initiatives will feed back into next year's budget process. And if we are looking at where we need to focus resources based on what our strategic plan tells us, we'll have a better idea how to do that and keep with a visible, transparent set of goals that the board has adopted. Okay, so that's basically the strategy to move forward with the strategic plan. And we have, if you have if you have questions, be happy to try and answer them.
Okay. Trustee Kumar.
Can we go back to the initiatives? Okay, before the Gantt, I understand the Gantt. The Gantt is kind of an internal document, basically,
Right.
that you're working internally, and that's great for us to know that you guys are working on it internally. But I think that's not a real working document that the people of Villa Park are probably interested in. They just want to see how much you've accomplished in each of these categories
Right.
to a certain extent. And I think just I'm there, I'm not there, or I met my target, did not meet my target, something like that can be said, or just green, red, and yellow is my favorite thing. Because you just color them a color, and then you're kind of partway there, or you haven't started, which would be red, or you're getting there, and so that they know that some of these are being completed. So use a stoplight and just throw a nice graphic on the thing. You don't need to have a thermometer. The problem with the thermometer, I agree, is that most of your initiatives don't really meet that criterion, and they're very different in their needs. Some will. Some are clear measurements where you have those possibilities, and then some are like, I contacted 3 people, or I met with that person. That doesn't really meet that kind of criteria. And so that's the issue there, especially with things like community engagement. So I do see that you're creating these like tasks in between, like the tasks for each of these kind of initiatives, and I see the little tasks kind of coming out, and that's in the Gantt report. But that's the stepwise tasks are more internal, I think,
Right.
than external. So for people to see externally, it's, are you completing it? Are you getting there? And what is the measure you're using to get there? And so we don't seem to have a lot of measures that we can see here on these initiatives yet. They're inside. There's no kind of measure outside that can be visualized by the people of Villa Park on these.
Yeah, no, I hear what you're saying. So a lot of these, I'm not planning to actually I'm sorry, may have that not clear, but no, the goal isn't to show each task on each initiative. I don't know if I made that clear, but to see as, the number of initiatives that have been
Yeah,
connected.
one thing is
But-
to look at initiatives completed, but the issue
Right.
with that, there's a major issue with that, Matt, in that if you do that, let's say I complete everything in workforce development and I don't address anything in the other categories. It still looks like you've completed a lot, but it's not even
Right.
necessarily.
Right.
So that becomes a problem. So it's nice to see how far along you are on each of the initiatives, because each one of them is important. It's not that one is more important than another. So by ordering it that way, you're saying that one is necessarily more important than another. That's not true. All of these initiatives are important equally, is kind of the meaning of the strategic plan. Doesn't mean they'll all get done at the same time. Some will take longer than others, and some are more efficiently already being accomplished. Looks like you've done a lot already. You've ticked off a lot of these kind of things, but nobody can see what's been done. So I think from even a marketing perspective of our village, we kind of need to see what's been done. What we're getting to, even in some, the village is a place to thrive, and to be seen by the people of Villa Park. And so I know you're trying to get there. I understand that, but this is like asking a lot at once.
Well, and the key outcome indicators and the targets are the things that we really want to visualize. And then not so much the tasks, those would be, the initiatives and the tasks are more are we yellow or green or red on the target or the key outcome indicator? But
But it looks like that's not even up there matching with any of these.
well, I think the key thing will be to develop until we have the website and the diagrams, and I think that has not yet been developed. That's something we'll have within a month or two, where we can give you a visual of, what this will look like as we build out and give you an idea of where we are on the different outcomes.
So do we have key outcome indicators for each of these initiatives?
We do.
We-
Well, we have
That's
key.
what you're developing though, right?
Well, the key outcome indicators are towards the outcomes that you came up with. So the initiatives are to get towards that. Those are underneath.
Underneath
right.
each of those outcomes and how far we are, but we have indicators of that.
Right.
And
So-
this initiatives would go kind of under each, because there were 3 in each category, actually?
There are 3 outcomes in each of the 4 categories,
In
yes.
each of the 4 categories. So we kind of have to also, these strategic plan initiatives, we need to see where they go under each of those key outcomes.
Yeah, they don't match 1-to-1 exactly,
No, there
so,
may be 2 in 1, 3 in 1, there may be things that are mapped in multiple, then you just rewrite them. If you have an outcome and then create community leadership engagement plan fits with outcome 1 and outcome 2, just copy and paste it down.
the create a community leader engagement plan is part of what we're one of the measures we're coming out that we came up with in the original development was a number of community leader meetings annually. So a community leader engagement plan will help us come up with meeting that target key outcome indicator, and the outcome is community bridges built. So community bridges built is more of a, so that
Absolutely
will,
fine,
yeah.
I'm just, what you say is fine, but
Yeah.
the problem is, these initiatives are not mapped well into this. So I don't see where each of these parts go within
I
the
understand what you're
original
saying.
diagram. So
Right.
we need to kind of move that into that, it all has to be in one diagram. That's what a strategic plan is. Can't be here and here, and then you try to figure out where it goes is not great. It should be on that same page where, okay, these are the initiatives for each of these key outcomes we want, and this is what we're doing, and to get there. Which I understand, and that might change also, it may not stay the same, and there might be multiple of those under each of the things. That also is fine, you can copy 3 times, you can say, complete a trust needs assessment in 3 different spaces if you want, but it should all be on this, in one map, so that you can see what that's gonna lead to.
I hear what you're saying, and the rubric is something that we adopted largely from how Corey has done this before. So I guess one of the things to do is to make it clearer how one leads to the other. The target leads to the outcome, and the outcome leads to the strategic goal. And I hear your comment, and that's something we'll work to make more clear.
Yeah, it's mainly a mapping into that. You have the initiatives, you have everything on the page, they just have to map into the same diagram. And then you can take the measurements and then write something about the measurements, but until they all map somewhere, I don't know where one of these goes within that target pool.
I could take one and bring it through, but I think the idea is more that make it more clear how all of them connect
Absolutely.
through.
Absolutely. Make it more clear that it's everybody, so everybody can see how this leads into that. Because that's the whole point, of a strategic plan. And that's kind of why it's not leading to where it's supposed to. It's because you've gotten there, you've got a lot of initiatives that are beautiful. I think they've come from staff. Staff has worked very hard on that, certainly. And then they also lead into these indicators. You just can't see how one matches with another.
Okay.
You got that? Okay. Any other question? Trustee Cordova?
Organizational infrastructure is my love language. So when I see Gantt charts and RACIs, that's how you get things done. So looking forward to seeing a lot of this. This is essentially just step one in a multitude of steps. So looking forward to this. Just a couple questions on here that as we're kind of scrolling through. When we look at the 2014 referendum project, the things that weren't done, those will be kind of the next, those will be prioritized in the next plan, correct? So if we only did like 80% of that 2014 project plan.
Well, I'm trying to remember the figures from the budget year, and Michael probably has it, but yes,
Right.
generally speaking, that is correct, yes.
And then there was a portion about the employee engagement survey. I love those. Do we have exit interview data to kind of see any kind of overarching themes on why people are leaving and where they're going?
We do exit interviews. I don't know that we've ever, it's a matter of capacity. I don't think we've ever tried to survey a large number of them to get any trends. I don't know, Suzanne, you could,
So we haven't historically done them. So we've done them, and our goal is to continue to build on that and then be able to have some quantifiable data. We've also talked about doing stay interviews to get an idea from there. So as part of all of this and just our general human resource strategies is really kind of building up some of those things that we haven't consistently done over the years, but we do them right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's just room for us to grow.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right, cool. Perfect. Thank you.
Any other questions? Trustee Kumar?
We're trying to complete the 2014 stuff as part of this, I assume.
yes.
Yeah.
The sustainable infrastructure goal is to get at least have a plan for completing all the rest of them. What we know is what Director Guerra has discovered as he's worked through the process is, and it's been this is all part of an effort to be much more intentional about how we do everything. There are a number of different things, and as Suzanne was pointing out, exit interviews are pretty, she didn't say this, but it is pretty common to do exit interviews, but we've just sort of started doing them. They hadn't been done before. So we're trying to get, we're trying to get a lot of intentional processes. What Director Guerra found out when he got here is that, there had been a lot of wins taken early, which makes sense when you want to build momentum to prove to people that you're going to get stuff done with the referendum money. The downside of that was some of the larger projects were pushed off till later, and some of them took more time to plan, so that's, part of it. But in that time, so yes, the 2014, the idea is that we would have a plan for, this is how you get everything else done. Part of that plan is going to be, this is how much money we need. So, because we know, and I think it's about, our rough guess now is, what, about 7? Or you? Yeah, you went. Yeah, how much funds are probably short from?
Oh, short?
Yeah,
No, I think we're in like 14 million.
is it 14 million? Yeah, okay.
Correct, yeah, as Manager Harline stated, part of this is we have all the street referendums. Most of them, I think we're at like 98% are in design or have been designed. It's that last 2, but a lot of them are pendant on other steps in the process to be completed before we can get to those steps. Case in point, Yale Avenue from, I think, Park to Madison. we have to get this next phase of Washington constructed, because that's the storm sewer to do the separation. So there are like 3-step processes those were the big projects. Those are the $10 million projects that we got to get completed to get to that street. And how do we get there in the remaining, a lot of them is APA loans, processes have changed. What's the new time frame and timeline to try to get into those processes, to get funding, identify funding and get them on the books and constructed.
And there are funding sources for some of this 14 million. It isn't something that we have to get all of it internally, but some of it.
Correct.
Yeah.
Since I've gotten here, there's multifaceted, the referendum. The referendum was for streets. Obviously, we've increased a lot of our sidewalk improvement with those projects, which increased their costs. But the second component was the referendum in 2017, I want to say. I might be wrong on that.
I think that's
for the utility tax to try to now pay for it. So now we're 2 years behind. When that started, that's the half a cent sales tax that was generated to help pay for the underground improvements. And a lot of that was planned with EPA loans. And then that would be back payment for the EPA loans, that funding. So factoring all that in, and then the time frame, COVID had hit, unfortunately. So yes, it's repackaging the remaining ones, and what's our time frame, and how do we get them completed and funding identified for it.
So it looks like you've already kind of come up with a lot of the strategy and the planning for that. And it's kind of almost being flushed out, is what it sounds like.
Correct.
Yeah.
It's that, and then being repackaging and reinforming the public of that.
So that strategy is
revised plan.
kind of being, that key performance is kind of being met, is what I would say.
There are a handful of them that are maybe more than that, well, and that makes sense, because during a strategic plan, we should be identifying those things that are the most important, and it is, something that important should have, you'd hate to not have at least started on some of that already. That would,
No, and
So-
it seems like a lot of it is flushed out, and that's,
Yeah.
what, it's nice for people to see that.
Yes.
That's what I would like the people of Villa Park to see. Yes, we have finished this much, and we have actually met these goals, and this is what we've actually gotten to, and we're still have some initiatives out there, but, a good portion of it is done, is nice to see, right?
Yes.
And that's kind of what he just said in those 20 seconds.
Yeah, no, those are, absolutely, that's one of the ones that we've gotten well along the way.
Well along the way for. So that's good to know, right? That's what the people of Villa Park would think, and that's the whole point of a strategic plan, to have some of it done, not all of it done. 100% is never going to get done. That's what makes it a plan, and not, a
Well,
requirement.
right, and the most important stuff getting done.
Yeah.
Question for you, Mike. Are we, for the referendum projects, are we pretty much, all of them are phase one at least? Or we still have to develop
No,
phase one?
there's the Washington to Yale, we have concept but we have not advanced the phase one. I was trying to advance the phase two for, so let me back up. So that one's, we broke it up into 3 phases essentially. The first phase was Monterey, because we had to connect the storm sewer at Highland, run it down Highland at Riverside, and down, and then we ran it down Monterey to Washington. That was part of that project. Now that sewer's there, we got to run it down Washington and pick up Euclid, because the Euclid was part of the referendum and sewer separation requirement. And then from there, we got to pick it up. I think we're stopping either at Illinois or Summit. That ending has been kind of moved back and forth pending budgetary constraints. And then we'll carry it all the way down to Yale to pick up Yale. So we have the large conceptual plan for drainage, but we haven't really flushed into phase one, the design past Summit.
Thanks. Hey, any other questions? Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you, Manager Harline, for your hard work here, and staff. You guys did a great job as usual.
We'll bring it back as we get closer and get the visual part of it, which will help make that connection between the initiatives and the up the hill to the targets, to the key outcome indicators and the outcomes.
Okay, do we have any public comments on the strategic plan update? Okay, seeing none, we have a motion to adjourn out of the Committee of the Whole.
Make that
Trustee
motion.
Cordova, we have a second? Trustee Kumar? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, any opposed? Okay, We are closed, and we will have a regular meeting at 7 o'clock.